Thank you for coming out this morning and welcome. We've been in the midst of strategic planning for what seems like a long time, but we've made enormous progress in my opinion. And today we're going to unfold some of the things that we have discovered during this process and see what you think of them. See if you think we're headed in the right direction. I'm impressed by the diligence that people have shown in this process. I'm impressed by the fact that we seem to want to emphasize the things that we're doing well now and not add everything under the sun to what we do at University of the West. I happen to think that's a good direction for us to take because we're a distinctive institution with some distinctive qualities. And if we make those even stronger, I think we'll be able to hold our special place in higher education, particularly in Southern California, where we have a lot of competing institutions around us. So I'm impressed with what we have. I hope you will be too. And I welcome you to add your 2 cents or 5 cents or 25 cents worth this morning. Ask questions, give us your ideas, add to this process. When we finish this part of the process, we'll have what I call an umbrella plan for a university at the West. And then we're going to ask all of the academic departments and administrative departments to develop their own strategic plan for the next few years within that umbrella guideline. And I think that will also be an exciting process and will allow departments to really focus on what they'd like to do over the next 5 years to help strengthen the University of the West and its position in higher education. So I find this a very exciting process. I find it a substantive process. And I want to thank Monica and Michael for the work they've put into this. They've been the guiders behind the process. Monica loves to do charts. I like charts. I'm a visual kind of guy, so it makes a lot of sense to me. And I do appreciate their leadership. I appreciate all of you participating. I've seen many of the same faces at all of our meetings, and that means we've got some strong consistency. So thank you for coming out this morning. Monica?
Sir. So welcome. Thank you for coming out, and especially thank you to the Strategic Plan Working Group, who's been meeting more often than I know you might have liked for about the last 4 to 6 months. I really appreciate this. This is your hard work. So Michael and I have tried to transcribe it to the best of our ability and put it together in a presentable format as the institutional strategic plan. So I have here a summary, a one-page summary. It's very brief, but I'm just going to pass it out. It's kind of like a cheat sheet. It doesn't have all the details. It just kind of goes over the major highlights. So there are more detailed versions if anybody wants to look at them, and I've even got one broken down by area of responsibility. But before we get into that, I'd just like to briefly talk about what a strategic plan is for. All of you at some point have been involved in the process, but may still be wondering why we're doing this at all. So the strategic plan is what sets our direction. It's a demonstration of our priorities for things like what we spend our money on, what kind of projects we pursue, what kind of positions we hire and what order we hire them. And it just reminds us where we're going when we have to make decisions. So that when we have to make a decision, we can pull out our strategic plan, and it's kind of like our compass. It tells us which direction we're heading. So this plan was initiated in 2013, shortly after President Morgan came on board. And we started first by talking about a vision for U.S. in 2020. Where do we want to be in 2020? So by spring of 2014, we finalized the vision. The cabinet created the final draft. And we started having this discussion about our institutional values. I think some of you who were here will remember we had 5 values at that time, and we spent the entire summer talking about them. How many people attended a values luncheon? Hopefully almost everybody here attended at least one of those. So we wrapped up at the end of the summer by deciding on our values, which really aren't that much of a change. They're just a reformulation. We have character, compassion, and community. Once we had our vision and our values and we kind of understood our identity, and we'd taken a lot of time to do a lot of research on an environmental scan. Michael did the bulk of the work on that, so we owe him a great deal of thanks on compiling data about majors and business practices and laws and regulations and statistics. So that really has also helped us guide this project. So once we had our identity and once we had our information about what was going on in the world around us and what was happening here within the school over the last few years, then the strategic plan working group really buckled down and started thinking about concrete goals and strategies. So that's what you have in your plan right now, is a brief summary of the 5 institutional goals and the about 30 or so strategies that we're going to use to pursue them over the next 5 years. So, some of you may remember this, the Vision 2020. U.S. will model whole person education through engaged and interdisciplinary learning in all programs, and exceptional caring faculty and staff who fulfill our unique mission, and service projects seeking to improve local and global communities. U.S. graduates will practice social responsibility, value diversity, and pursue lifelong learning and spiritual growth. U.S. will be a widely recognized name. So this is our destination, essentially, for 2020. This is where we want to be 5 years from now. And if you start looking at the 5 goals, you'll notice that they have a pretty close parallel to what's in the vision. There's a goal for faculty, there's a goal for campus culture, there's a goal that has to do with academics, so on and so forth. So the 5 goals that we came up with have kind of a hub and spoke framework. The central goal is a goal that's about campus culture. And this is really about our identity, our organizational climate, who we are as a university, how we treat our people. The other 4 goals are academic. They're about our programs, our learning outcomes, what our students do when they come here, what makes our academics unique from other universities. They are physical goals. So what do we want to do with our buildings and our landscape and our grounds in the next 5 years? They're financial, because of course everything runs on money. Okay. And they have to do with faculty growth and development, because faculty are really the core of our ability to meet our academic goals and be a university. So, we're going to go through these. This is going to be a little bit interactive. So I want you to bear with me. We'll start out slow. So the first goal for the university is to take pride in its identity and care for its people. Between now and 2020, we will strengthen a campus culture of care based on our mission and values, in which each community member takes pride. This is an aspirational goal. So we have 6 strategies to reach this goal by 2020. The first one, we're going to show gratitude to employees through annual awards and rewards and regular recognition. Now this might sound, oh, we're already doing that. Yes, you're right. We're already doing that. We're going to build on our strengths. We're not going to take some totally different route and try to remake the wheel. Okay? So we want to strengthen this kind of culture of pride and care by demonstrating pride and care. Okay? So the primary people who have responsibility for implementing this, not, from a coordinating standpoint, not necessarily that they have to go out and do it themselves, but the primary people who are going to coordinate this effort is our Human Resources Department, which is Lisa back there, and the Institutional Effectiveness and Planning Officer, which is me. So those with responsibility for this goal, are going to raise their hands, and we're going to get a sticker. Strategy number 2, we're going to build community through on-campus events for employees and students. These are service events, give-back events, things that make us come together so that we can all work on a common project in in which we can take pride. And again, the people who are going to help implement this over the next 5 years are human resources and the planning officer. So raise your hand if you have responsibility for this strategy. The third strategy is to boost local recognition and care for the community through annual off-campus events, service events involving employees and students. These could be things like volunteering with a local nonprofit, teach outs. There are all sorts of options here, but you'll notice that community, service, recognition, this all ties back to the vision. And the person responsible for coordinating this effort is the planning officer.
I think you're just giving yourself
This
stickers.
will get a little less repetitive.
And
And if Juan wants to be responsible, he can get a sticker.
And Eddie could be responsible for this too, right?
Then Eddie can get a sticker. Yes.
And April. Don't you want to play?
See how this works. I'm not going to do this alone.
I think I'm responsible for two also though.
Okay.
And Eddie and Vanessa and the rest of the student affairs committee.
Then please, Bella, share the stickers. All right, this will get a little less repetitive, I promise.
So raise your hand.
So strategy 4, we want to encourage strategic thinking and engagement from all employees through professional development and workplace policies. This is some kind of professional development and training that the planning office is going to lead, but anybody who wants to be involved can be involved. So I need a sticker for number 4.
Shouldn't HR be involved in professional development?
Certainly. I felt bad putting HR on every single one of these. I'm trying to spread it around, but anybody who feels responsible for this strategy can raise their hand.
I think where's my supervisor?
Right behind you.
Vanessa.
All right. So here's a big
Love
one.
Vanessa.
Strategy 5, systematically review, revise, and streamline policies, procedures, and practices to promote autonomy, transparency, and service. So this involves everybody. So who's responsible for this? Everybody who works here is responsible for this one. Yeah, so everybody's going to get a sticker. So everybody is responsible for these aspects of the strategic plan. So what do we mean when we say we're going to streamline the way we do our work to promote autonomy, transparency, and service? Okay. Autonomy and transparency are two of the major hallmarks of healthy institutions. So I don't remember who it was now, but there was recently a report released by in the Chronicle of Higher Education of the top 40 greatest colleges and universities to work for. And they were ranked on a number of factors. This was based on a survey. They had 16 categories. The universities that consistently came out on top as the greatest places to work for are universities that had high workplace autonomy and high workplace transparency. So these are things that we can really start to build on here at University of the West. It doesn't mean we're not doing it. It just means we can make it more of a central part of our culture as a campus. Okay? Last one under this goal. Because we care about our employees, we want to make sure that people are getting treated fairly. So we want to benchmark pay and benefits against agreed upon industry standards for all positions on a regular cycle, and set goals for achieving parity or near parity in all positions. Okay? This doesn't mean we're gonna find out what the industry average is and then pay everybody the average. You know, the average is being dragged up by places like Stanford, by medical schools, things like that. But we're going to try to set some reasonable goals for 2020. We're also going to expand non-financial employee benefits whenever possible in order to make US just a great place to work. Okay? So the people responsible for this, because it involves a lot of the money, is the executive team, human resources, the cabinet, and the board of trustees. So if you're responsible for this goal, please raise your hand. Actually, I'm not. This is the one I got out of. The president is. Cabinet members, executives, HR. Do we have any of the members of the board of trustees snuck in disguise? So how many people have stickers already? So if you have stickers, that means this plan involves you. It needs you in order to be functional, to work. Right? So I'm going to hand it over to Michael to go through our next
Thank
goal.
you, U.S. community, for being here today. So spoke number 1 are 4 academic pillars. U.S. promotes its mission and values through a unique 4 pillars approach to education by linking interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary learning, study abroad opportunities, service, and contemplative education. And how we as an institution plan on tackling this goal, strategy number 1, we believe that we need to revise the institutional learning outcomes to support the 4 pillars of inter-cross-disciplinary education, study abroad and cross-cultural education, service learning, and contemplative education in all academic programs. Those primarily responsible will be the MIC committee. And I believe MIC is an open forum, so that's actually extended to all faculty, staff, and students as well. So who believes they are responsible for this strategy? Keep those hands up. We'll continue with strategy number 2. In order to accomplish spoke 1, goal number 2, integrate interdisciplinary courses, service learning, and contemplative education into the general education curriculum for most undergraduate students, and revise the general studies major to involve more interdisciplinary work, possibly as an IDS degree. Those we believe to be primarily responsible for executing this strategy are the chair of General Education, General Studies, with the support of the IETF team. Integrated Education Task Force team.
So
Who believes they're responsible for the execution of this strategy? Strategy number 3, develop service as an aspect of professional practice opportunities for at least half of all graduate students, such as internships, practicums, and clinical placements. Responsibilities, or primarily responsible, Dean of Academic Affairs, department chairs, and our career, what is that? Service coordinator.
there he is.
We are an acronym-driven institution. Okay. Those feel that they're responsible for strategy number 3. Strategy number 4, leverage existing international relationships and partnerships to offer study abroad opportunities to at least a quarter of domestic students, particularly undergraduates. Those we consider to be primarily responsible for the execution of this strategy is the Dean of Academic Affairs and the International Exchange Officer. With that being said, who else feels that they are responsible for the execution of this strategy? Strategy number 4. Strategy number 5, support faculty to implement the 4 pillars through hiring professional development in related pedagogies, and revise policies to reward interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, contemplative, and service learning teaching and research. See related scope 4 under faculty growth, primarily responsible for the execution of the strategy, APCC, and the IETF, or the Integrated Education Task Force. Strategy number 6, expand cross-disciplinary opportunities in graduate programs, such as certificate programs that bridge existing departments or interdisciplinary classes and projects. Those primarily responsible, IETF, or the Integrated Education Task Force. Of course, not limited to this group, but who else feels that they play a role in the execution of this strategy? I'm the honorary rover. And strategy number 7, improve spiritual and contemplative education with a concentration for undergraduates, a certificate for graduate students, co-curricular programs that support contemplative practice for ongoing spiritual formation, and research into contemplative studies and pedagogies. Those that we feel are primarily responsible is the Integrated Education Task Force. Again, not limited to this group. Who else feels that they play a role in the execution of this strategy?
So a lot of the usual suspects got stickered during those rounds. But if you'll notice, a lot of these strategies are being carried out by interdepartmental teams. So so we want everybody to be involved who feels that they have something important to give, but we're not trying to put everything on your shoulders, so don't freak out if you have tons of stickers. So the second spoke in our goals is physical beauty, safety, and sustainability. And by that we mean we want to become a more desirable physical place to study, learn, live, and work through the triple strategies of beauty, safety, and sustainability. The first strategy, and we've already done this, so we're not like making new work, we're just validating what's been going on, is to empower an inclusive and transparent facilities committee to take a more active role in assessing campus needs, prioritizing projects, developing proposals, recommending contractors, and monitoring the maintenance and capital improvement budgets. Basically, this is to support our facilities department by bringing more heads into the game. So the members of the facilities committee and those who feel they're responsible for this strategy So the second strategy is to create a standardized, inclusive process on a regular annual cycle by which projects are proposed, evaluated, and prioritized using data-driven and rubric-based criteria, including the criteria for beauty, safety, and sustainability. So we want to be able to define what that means so that collectively we can make some decisions and choose our priorities. So again, those who feel responsible for this strategy, including the facilities committee. So the facilities committee has been meeting for how long now? A year almost? And it's starting to really kind of coalesce in its practices, and we've been looking at what other universities do, and one of the things they do is they create standardized processes for these things. So we're following some best practices in the industry here. Strategy 3 is over the next 5 years particularly, we want to prioritize high-impact, low-cost projects with a good return on investment that support the growth of the campus by appealing to new students, particularly residents, so that we can fill the residence halls by 2020. So those who are primarily responsible for this strategy, usual suspects, yeah? So we'd like to have more students living on campus, create a more vibrant atmosphere, see more students in the bookstore and cafe, more students in the library and the pool. And to do that, we think we need to make it a little more attractive for them. Okay. Strategy number 4 is to work with experienced consultants and experts on larger capital improvement projects to ensure quality and supplement in-house knowledge and resources. Responsibilities for this include the facilities committee, the executive team, and anybody else who ever wants to come to a presentation by our architects or landscape architects. So we've contracted with Berliner and Associates, a local architectural firm, and Abe Associates, a local landscape architecture firm. And they bring us nice, cool maps and carpet samples and other fun stuff. Strategy 5, we'd like to raise some donor funds to pay for large capital improvement projects through coordinated campaigns and naming honors. So this we're probably going to need to do through the president's office. But anybody else who wants to help out. But you've all been to college campuses where they've got the John Smith building and the Sarah Smith library, et cetera, Well, those are people that donated significantly to the university, so we'd like to cultivate some folks of our own. Finally, strategy 6, encourage and empower a proactive, professional in-house team to enhance campus facilities and grounds. So anybody who wants to be part of that team, please raise your hands. This means a lot of our guys from general services, people who take a proactive approach to maintenance. So in this manner, we hope to meet our goals for our physical space over the next 5 years, despite what we know are sometimes limited resources. Okay?
Can I, sorry?
Yes.
Implied in some of these things, I'm sure, is the involvement of the student government. It just didn't probably make it onto the list. So student government should feel free to
We can't
get
mandate
stickers.
we can't mandate the student government be involved the way we can require some of our departments.
Right.
But the student government is always welcome. We have student representatives on the facilities committee, on the mission and identity committee, on the integrated education task force. So you should always feel welcome.
Thank you.
Spoke 3. Now, of course, we can't execute any of our strategies without allocating or attaining resources. So this is really to deal with how we are going to move forward financially. Financial stability and self-sufficiency. Raise other sources of revenue to become 60% financially self-sufficient with a 40% Board of Trustees contribution by 2020 and balanced budgets every year. Strategy 1, increase enrollment to 700 students or 600 full-time equivalent students by 2020 with a 60% or higher undergraduate mix. Pursue enrollment growth, obviously through an enrollment management plan, through domestic and international or 50-50 undergraduate recruiting, and improved retention rates in all programs. These are the groups we feel are primarily responsible for the execution of this strategy. Enrollment management team and retention committee. And of course, who else feels that they're play a big part in the execution of this strategy? Strategy number 2, raise tuition rates and fees slightly faster than inflation to increase revenue and outpace costs. Primary responsible party, the E-team. Those who feel that they also play a role in the execution of this strategy, raise your hand. Strategy number 3, maintain student discount rates, i.e. institutional aid, at or below 30% and maximize financial aid leveraging to attract students while efficiently using resources. Those we feel at an institutional level that are primarily responsible are the financial aid team and the executive team. Those who also feel they play a part in the execution of this strategy. Strategy number 4, cultivate other sources of donor and grant revenue by establishing a professionally staffed, i.e. director and support staff, development office, primarily responsible, president's office, as well as strategy number 5, control costs and balance budgets through careful budget monitoring and strategic investment in growth supportive areas that maximize return on investments. Use data-driven decision-making strategies and standardized analytical metrics. Cabinet members, and those who also feel they play a part in the execution of this strategy. Utilize creative organizational and administrative models to maximize efficiency and cost savings. Primarily responsible, President's Office and the executive team. Those who also feel they play a role in this strategy, please raise your hand.
So the last goal is to develop our full-time faculty pool to a desirable target through systematic hiring, workload, and tenure policies in order to support more classes taught by these full-time faculty, particularly at the undergraduate level. This was also a specific recommendation of our WASC team when they were here. The first strategy is to grow the full-time faculty in 2 phases. First, we want to hire a sufficient base so that they can teach 40% of undergraduate and 50% of graduate courses. We're already doing this in some departments, but not all of them. Thereafter, we want to hire new faculty according to a gradually increasing student-to-faculty classroom ratio with an institutional target of 18:1, but there's some variability in that depending on the program. So primary responsibility is APCC and executive team, but anybody who feels that they can contribute to this, please raise their hand. One of the things the WASC team pointed out when they're here is the ways that full-time faculty can support our students and the shared and collaborative governance of the organization in ways that our adjuncts, although we love them, a lot of them have other jobs and they're not always here. So we would like to increase the numbers of our full-time faculty. Maybe even by hiring a few of those dedicated adjuncts. Strategy 2, create a clear matrix of faculty titles and ranks and commensurate salaries, benefits. Evaluate existing full-time faculty and adjust these members' ranks and titles accordingly to the matrix. So this is already in process a little bit, but it'll be fully carried out, we hope, by HR, the Dean of Academic Affairs, and APCC. But anybody who feels they have a role to play in this. So we're probably going to see the faculty chairs getting lots of stickers during this fall. Strategy 3 is to develop and implement a policy matrix to trigger new full-time faculty hires in each academic department using 3 criteria: strategic value, finances, and workload metrics. Michael presented this essentially to APCC, I believe less than a month ago. So those who feel that they have a responsibility for this one, Michael, APCC, and the Dean of Academic Affairs. So again, this is just a repetition of strengthening the path that we're already on. I'm not trying to create a list of new projects, if we can help it. Yes?
Kind of similar to my previous comment, is it implied that academic senate is somehow,
The faculty senate is on the next couple of these.
okay,
Yeah.
show up?
But of course, the faculty senate and APCC have sometimes overlapping employee roles,
Right.
and it's kind of up to them to figure out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. So strategy 4 is to further develop and standardize hiring and tenure practices through the use of rubrics and clearly evaluate prospective hires, link hiring to tenure, provide alternatives to the classic research-based tenure track spots. Some universities use instructor or lecturer models, and to evaluate adjunct potentials for full-time hiring. So this is related to supporting the 4 pillars. And we see the primary responsibility being HR, the Dean of Academic Affairs, and the Faculty Senate. So those who are interested in supporting this goal, or strategy, sorry. Last but not least, we want to, this is the grab bag. Make U.S. an attractive place to work through clear policies, collaborative governance, research support, professional development, competitive compensation, academic support staff, and honoring the university's unique mission and identity. Primary responsibility of the executive team, Dean of Academic Affairs, APCC, and Faculty Senate. So that's a lot of people, right? Okay. So, we tried to make a kind of dry presentation a little more interactive. And we know that we've thrown a lot of information at you very quickly, but we'd like some feedback, questions, discussions, thoughts, things that we missed, things that are off track, things that you really like. Just open it up.
I feel kind of, I'm part of the committee, but not looking at the whole picture. I missed my department. I didn't see student services
Yeah.
and student development.
Yeah. Because this is the institutional plan, it most of the goals and strategies are interdepartmental. So they either happen at the administration executive level, or they're the responsibility of interdepartmental committees and teams. So there are a few departments that have strategies assigned to them specifically, but for the most part, you'll determine for student services how to carry these out when you create a division plan for student affairs. Is that what you know?
Well, we were kind of chatting, and the concept of student development isn't in there, so not really a department, but acknowledging the development of the students seemed like it should have been one of the spokes.
It was under the 4 academic pillars, and co-curricular was called out in several of those strategies. It might not be on the summary sheet because they're shortened, but we have the longer version, and I think that contains co-curricular under the 4 academic pillars several times. Manu?
One of the things that I was thinking about, I don't know if it's directly related here, but it's having just more online classes. I know it's a part of the community, but I don't know, for some reason it keeps going in my head, just more online classes, and I didn't see anything about that interdisciplinary, but I know having online classes, especially for students that, you know, are working also, it's kind of difficult.
So Hannah Kaminsky?
It has goals, just like we're doing our following this, there's goals and strategy. So really it's both basically at a strategic level, although when you say who's involved, in some of the thoughts we raised on here, and I think a third column, that's probably why you're having these questions, is the operation
Yeah.
plan is really where I think some of the questions coming to you is how do you operationalize this? And that's the third column that is perhaps.
Yeah, some of those will need to be worked out by the parties tasked with them, which will include a lot of people from student services and the groups. Dr. Chen.
Sun University has 3 defined values: collective, compassion, and community. If we look at the whole strategic plan, strategic 5 strategic goals, it's very clear. 2 of these values, compassion and community, are well linked edges. But the first one, I guess we'll put it as the first one, the most important one, collective is not well linked or edges. Understand it's difficult to be measured. Particularly, these values should not only for students, but for faculty and staff. So how to employ not only students, but faculty, staff, collectively? Should we have some kind of way or plan or strategy?
To start at the end and work backwards, the campus culture goal really has a lot to do with our values and character, and in some of each of these goals have been whittled down so that when they appear in the plan, it's about what we're going to do. But there are other documents that talk about how they're more linked to the identity of the university and how they can be operationalized and what other research and things like that. And all of the goals have this background data. It's not in the final document because we don't want to overload you, but the working group has done a lot of research on this. So I think the working group also had a concern exactly what you voiced about character, which is why they stressed contemplative education and interdisciplinary education in the 4 pillars. And you're right, I think that could be spelled out a little more carefully, especially when we go through and look at the institutional learning outcomes again. Other comments and questions? Okay. So where do we go from here? Okay. So, hopefully by the mid-end of this month, the institutional strategic plan will be finalized, all the typos eliminated, all the language smoothed out. And then in March, we'd like to see the divisions and the academic departments start their own plans, beginning with an assessment. So kind of like what we did when we started the institutional strategic plan, we asked ourselves about our identity, and we collected a lot of data about our internal condition and our external environment. And we'd like to see the divisions and the departments doing that. In March, the strategic plan will be presented to the board. I'm going to be optimistic and say they approve it. Could be struck down by lightning in a minute now, but we can hope. In April, hopefully the divisions and departments will begin to draft their own goals and strategies, just like the institution did. At the same time, some of the groups that are tasked with things that are listed in the strategic plan, such as the Integrated Education Task Force, the Mission Identity Committee, the Facilities Committee, these are all groups that already meet pretty regularly, and they can start to tackle what's in the strategic plan that pertains to them. In May, hopefully the divisions can submit their plans to the executive team. I recognize that is ambitious. You can push back, but I'm always ambitious about these deadlines. And the departments can submit their plans to APCC for review. Okay? Over the summer, hopefully the feedback from the executive team and APCC will help the department chairs and division heads finalize their plans, and we can start thinking about a strategic budget. So at this stage, the divisions and the departments are really going to drive the 5-year strategic budget because you guys know your own needs best. So, 7 steps. We would like all the divisions and the departments to assess their situation, digest the longer document of the strategic plan, which when I say longer, I mean 9 pages, which is the shortest strategic plan I've ever found, but the president wanted it to be 1, so I think we're doing pretty good. Develop goals and strategies, assign metrics, targets, and responsibilities, create a 5-year strategic budget for your group, and submit your plan for review. So there will be more guidance. Michael and I are happy to work with whatever group your division or department puts together to create this plan. Hopefully we can keep it relatively straightforward. So So the purpose of this is almost everybody here, particularly if you're an employee of the university, should have stickers, yes? Did we miss anybody completely? Did anybody get off scot-free?
We will find you.
And if you did, can you tell me your secret? But what we want to emphasize is that we're in this together. This involves everyone. So everyone is responsible for the success and everybody also benefits from it. So we hope we can get your support moving forward. We hope nobody feels left out. If you do, please come talk to us. We want this to be an inclusive and transparent process. So I'm going to turn it over to President Morgan for closing remarks.
Well, thank you for participating again. I want to see who has the most dots. Monica doesn't count. I'm sorry. Who's next? The person who has the most dots, Bill Chen, is going to buy your lunch today. So you can work it out with him. Have a conversation with him. I appreciate your coming out this morning, and I particularly appreciate the comments that were made. And what I hope you'll do is go through this document, and if you have suggestions for clarifying or emphases that you haven't seen in that document that you think should be, please talk to Monica about that. This document is not set in concrete. A strategic plan shouldn't be set in concrete, because if we think we can see 5 years out, we're kidding ourselves. The world will change in 5 years. University of the West will change in 5 years. This is a roadmap that we can use, but just like my GPS, I have to update it periodically because the roads change. And that will happen for us too. So please don't think of it as set in concrete. It's something we should revisit every year and make changes as our environment changes. But if you don't think we're emphasizing students enough in how we write our document, we should reword it, because we are here for our students. If you think we're missing something, please talk to Monica about it, and let's see if we can correct that. Because we are, first and foremost, an academic institution, but we also know that we do a lot toward personality development and human development, while our students, whether they're traditional age or older adults, are in our institution. So please feel free to make this a two-way conversation. Give your input to Monica. Thank you for participating today, and now I'm looking forward to what our departments generate that fits within this to really put some meat on the bones to make this happen so that we can live out this strategic plan. And the result should be a stronger University of the West that better serves the students who choose our institution for their educational endeavors. And my hope is that for every student who comes to University of the West, we're helping them prepare the best they possibly can with who they are to pursue their dreams in the future and to do what they want to do to make the world a better place. And the character piece is an important one. How can we better clarify that? How can we make sure that we're touching on that character piece? I pick up the newspaper every day and read about people who have a gap with the character piece, and that's disappointing. And if we can contribute to building higher character for the students who come through University of West, we'll be pursuing a very noble thing and something that's very important to us. So please feel free to communicate now. It's not over. We're still in the process. Thanks for coming today.
Anybody who wants the longer version?
Your responsibility.